Mr. 2020 and the golden one dropping wrestling talk. Wrestling adventure storytelling, no fake news here. Yo, Mr.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, hey, bud, how are you?
I am great. It's been a few weeks since we did the podcast, just a few minutes since we
Yep.
talked. Off of here, of course. But we're back, everybody. It is, we're in the last few days of May of 2026,
Yeah,
if you can believe that. Already a half a year gone almost. And then before you know it, man, get the holidays and we'll be in another year. It's just been crazy fast this year. And I've been gone almost from Virginia now, almost a year when mid-July hits. I left there on July 14th. I see you clap. And yeah, so we're getting close around the corner of marking a year anniversary of being back in the state of Florida and leaving the state of Virginia. But I guess that's a different story, different tale, right? Been a few weeks, like I said. Both of us had some things here and there in 1 week, and then the next week the other one would, and it just kind of, our schedules kind of we can't collaborate together to make it work. It's been rough, but family and stuff always comes first, and it should, and important things in life always come first, because we both have personal lives outside of this, and we always put that first, which is great. But we're back now, and we're going to talk about, Mike, Omega. Now, Omega. Do we know what this stands for, right?
yeah, I think we talked about that.
Yeah. So Mike, tell everybody we're talking about Omega Wrestling. Tell them what it stands for.
I can't remember.
Okay,
I know
well,
you just told me. I don't even know.
it's
You said something, and I just didn't believe you because it didn't sound right.
no, it's 100% right. Organization of Modern Extreme Grappling Arts, Omega, and it had the big Omega symbol like you'd see at a college fraternity or whatever. That was our symbol. And one thing, if people didn't see it back in the day, the tape collectors during the video era, still before CD and now the streaming we got, right? And none of this is online. And not to change the subject, but I'll go back into Omega in a second. But I was talking to Thomas Simpson about the video library of Omega. And if everybody doesn't know, Thomas Simpson is like one of the brainchilds of and masterminds of Omega Wrestling with Matt Hardy. That's what actually brought that company to life in spring of 1997. Well, anyway, so I was talking to him, and this was when we saw each other face to face, which has been almost 4 years now. It was WrestleCade 2022 for the Omega reunion. And he said that that's never been released, that not many people have it unless they tape traded back in the day, and it's never been streamed online. Just think about that. Never been streamed online. I think in itself, if he decides to do that one day, they could make a decent amount of money off the early years of the Hardy Boys and Shannon Moore and Shane Helms and Joey Matthews and Steve Corino was even there. Mike Maverick, Caprice Coleman, C.W. Anderson came through there. Lodi came through there on shows. Just an array of talent. And like I always tell, and you said it earlier, you brought it up, something in the water in the Carolinas, because that was the best era of athletes was the 1990s that came out of there. And I will say this too, and this is taken away from Omega real quick, but a lot of the Omega stars that we just named went through stages with the PWF, which is the Italian Stallions group that I started with. And that was just the foundation to help these guys as well learn how to maybe do a headlock the correct way and on the right side. Because if you watch matches, Mike, and next time you'll probably go back and look at this now. When the Hardy Boys did their suplexes in WWF days, this is before the E, when they got their big run, they would pick the guy up on the right side. Well, maybe a luchador, Mexico style, they would do stuff on the right side. American style would always be done on the left side. Everything's done with your left. You shoot the guy off the ropes, you shoot him with your left, not the right. But they would do things opposite. But they also watched a lot of Japanese and wrestling from Mexico, as in luchador style. So they kind of that's what Omega was, right? It was American wrestling gimmick wise mixed with Japanese and Mexican. I guess that's not the right term. Luchador style type wrestling, and that's what it was. Omega was phenomenal, and we were the front runners of any promotion that resembles that at all nowadays. And I'll name a few. Ring of Honor would never have got. They may have started, but fans wouldn't have picked up on that type of wrestling if it wasn't for guys like the Hardy Boys and of course WCW and ECW bringing in the luchadors in the mid-90s. That helped build that up to that new era of having guys that were quick, smaller, because the Hardys aren't the biggest guys in the land. We know this. And either were the Shannon Moores or the Joey Matthews and people like that, but they were great athletes. And people don't know this about Shane Helms real quick. Shane Helms is a phenomenal worker. You take aside any of the Hurricane gimmick and watch his work in WCW, he'd actually work a match and not just high spots. Shane Helms, he has a background in collegiate style wrestling. He's just an all around good athlete. And I think that's what made Shane Helms succeed in a business that was ever changing to help the smaller talents that you see today. So, yeah. Because you got to realize when all these young kids were breaking in, when I was breaking in, the business in the early 90s was still primarily, you can say, a big man sport, right? But you got to look back. There were guys over the years that were smaller that made lots of money. Ricky Morton wasn't the biggest guy in the land, but he made money. Rock and Roll Express were over, right? But the true era of smaller guys started in the 1990s, and Omega helped contribute to that. So, but we would talk a lot about that. But the story I was going to tell before I got sidetracked, the Thomas Simpson story, and going on, right, Mike? Because I get blah blah. Was the Omega symbol. Well, the referees here, we did something different. We would wear. They sold gimmick shirts, right? They sold the Omega logo on the shirt. I don't have mine no more. I wore mine out, and I don't know. But I refereed in it as well. It was just a T-shirt with the logo of Omega on it, and all this Japanese writing underneath it. Really cool looking. You'd love it because of the Japanese stuff on it. But really cool shirt. I refereed in it. We didn't referee in the standard striped shirts, black and white, or the bow tie and the blue shirt look of the WWF Golden Era or whatever. They didn't use that either. We just used that. It was a different look. Everything was solid black except for the logo on the shirt was white. And that was kind of cool. We did something different, but the promotion itself was ran different. And Omega truly was the front runners of all the high flying action and crazy stunts that we see today. So, but we're going to go more in depth than that, And before we do, I want to give the big intro into that, right? Intro into that. Let's see how Mike's life's been the last few weeks that we haven't been on here. Did you have anything exciting happen, or non-exciting, or just a funny story that either I missed or you've told me, but you'd like to share with everybody else as well?
I don't know.
You've been really busy.
I have been. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, let's see. We had all the kids. They're out of school for summer now, so the house here is going to be a little bit busy.
Yeah.
the youngest boy, he had his moving up ceremony, and I was lucky to be off of work to go to that. Um, yes, dealing with like the last weeks of school, you know how busy that could be and everything. So um, dealing with that, and you know how work can be. Uh,
I do.
that's going to be a deep dive into that one day. Uh, that we can got some funny stories we could probably tell about that. But since I still work there, we probably shouldn't say them yet.
Should just wait for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, it's been good. We went. I had a birthday, and I got a package in the mail, and somebody just happened to send me the real American beer right up there.
That's right.
I don't know who it was, but all I'm going to say is thank you, Julia.
Okay.
Uh,
Did I put on it
I,
Jay Tucker, or did I put or Jamie Tucker? What did I put on the package? Because sometimes
I
I
think
just
it was.
write Jay Tucker on it. I don't even put my full first name on anything.
Hold on. I
Okay,
think I still got it.
Mike's got to go look into this, guys. We got to find out.
James Tucker.
Oh, okay. I did put my name. There you go. You're welcome.
Yeah, I get his government name. Hold on.
That's right.
But no, it was good.
You also got some good autographed pictures of a famous referee too sent to you.
Yeah, there's I gotta put those so I can actually hang them up on the wall and everything. So next week I will get them out so I can. I didn't want to get torn up before I can put them on the wall, but I will show y'all on here what they look like. So when y'all go see Mr. 2020, y'all can see what the autographs will look like, and y'all can buy anything from Jimmy Tucker.
Yeah,
He will sell y'all anything.
I will. I will.
Who knows? He might even sell a hug for $20.
Hey, if I'm at a show, want a hug that bad, and you got $20, I will take it. $20, $20.
I don't think anybody's that desperate, but
Oh, that's not great, man. Hey, I don't mind. I give free hugs.
well,
But if we're charging for them now, I wouldn't mind taking the money.
but other than that, everything's been good. So I took off like a few days for my birthday. Didn't really do nothing, just stayed around here and stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Uh, and then uh, had a good Memorial Day. Uh, had to work, but when I got off, it was really good. So how was your Memorial Day?
Memorial Day itself, didn't do anything. You know, didn't do anything. Didn't celebrate in any way. Monday, I didn't even have a beer to celebrate the holiday. America didn't even have one of these. I got an empty can right here. Didn't even have one of these to celebrate the American holiday. But yeah, nothing. Nothing exciting.
I mean, it's on Memorial Day. It's for like kind of like remember like the fallen soldiers and veterans stuff like that. And are you saying that you did not even go to cowboyrevolution.com and use the promo code JamieT123?
I did not go to cowboyrevolution.com and use the code JamieT123 at checkout for that 15% off. But that's a great idea, Mike. I'm glad you brought that up today. Already, Mike had thought about it. And Mike, what's the main reason that they should go shop from this site?
One, because the veterans.
That's right. It helps them. That's right.
And who doesn't like 15% off?
I love savings. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I work at Walmart and we get a 10% discount. Well, Well, Cowboy Revolution, I get an extra 5%, so I'm up to a 15% discount.
That's right. You can't beat
So
it.
you can't beat it.
Need a hat for the summertime, everybody. Get
Yep.
you some hats. Get the one. Get
Shirts.
the ones that say cowboy hat on it. The ball cap, like I got. I don't have it with me right now, but I've worn it on here before. I love that hat. It's one of my favorite hats. I love to wear it when I go out. I put on my jeans, my cowboy boots. I go out, and that's my cowboy hat. So that's simple as that. Go there right now. CowboyRevolution.com. Use code JamieT123 at checkout for 15% off. I do want to throw this at you as well, guys. We got to remind them about the email address. And this email address right here, guys. Now, it's not just for your questions and comments no more. You know what else it's for? If you want to get signed autograph photos, I have them. I have pictures from my WCW days. I have a picture from my TNA days. Just email the address wrestleref123@gmail.com. And listen, here's the best part about it. Your signed autograph. Now listen, this pays for your paid postage and handling and everything. For $6, I will sign your autograph and mail it to you. It covers the mailing, it covers the autograph, it covers the photo. I'm not trying to nickel and dime you in this day and age like everyone else. Just trying to give back. They are. If you just let us know what size. The only thing that'll make it go up in price is if I have to produce an 8x10 for you. Right now, they're 6x8s and 5x7s. If you want a 8x10, I'll sign that for you for, listen to this, unbelievable price of $8. So go to that email address. Let me know what you want right there, guys. WrestleRef123@gmail.com. So Mike, moving along here on the show this week, we have decided to go back, actually talk about Omega. Now, we've said it before, we're going to bring the talk on, we're going to do this, do that with it, and we've never done it. I had talked about Omega many moons ago when the podcast first came out in September of, our first show was the end of September of 2024. So you got to think about that. It's almost going on 2 years now that the original podcast had started. It was the whole Reffin' Show. Fast forward almost a year in, we changed the name to Jamie and Mike's Wrestling Adventures. When the co-host changed out, Julia, my beautiful wife, had decided to step away. And then thankfully, you were there waiting in the wings to be able to help out with this lovely podcast. And we could keep it going. And we just branded it different, and here we are. So we hope to keep this going even longer than the 2-year anniversary coming up in September as well. So when we talk about Omega, Mike, the countless stars that went through there, people don't realize that, right? A lot of people, anybody that started watching wrestling in the late 90s, or someone, I'll just put it this way, someone that was born in the late 90s and they want to be a pro wrestler may not know who all these guys are. Hell, some people get in our business, never wanted to be in the business, don't know who half the stars were before them, don't know how to acknowledge anybody. And, they have long, lustrous careers, just, in the great sport, the king of sports, as I call it, pro wrestling, has changed a lot throughout the years. But, I always knew everyone before me, right? So this is an era that if you don't know about, you missed out on some great wrestling, right? This was the pinnacle of independent professional wrestling in the late 90s. Omega Wrestling was. And it was based in the Carolinas. The only company that ran longer than Omega in the Carolinas, well, that's worth a darn, that I'll bring up, is the PWF, because I got my start there in 1993, and Stallion and them had established that from 1990, and Stallion finally retired the company in 2002. So you're looking at a good 12 or 13-year run. Stallion ran his own shows. And And the thing is, when people tell me, oh, I don't know who the Italian Stallion is, or somebody says, well, here's the big one, Ricky Steamboat. Who's Ricky Steamboat? Oh, you don't know who Ricky Steamboat is? You shouldn't even watch professional wrestling today, because nobody that's currently out there can hold a candle to the guys of yesteryear in the aspect of being a pro wrestler. Maybe a sports entertainer, they have it beat, if we look at it with that term, because, Paula Jones, people like Paula Jones and Ricky Steamboat didn't have all the frills and all the pipe bombs, as these young kids call them today. They could go out there and cut a promo about the town they're going to be running the show that weekend and feature a main event match, not on the weekly show like they do now, right? They'd feature a weekly match. Like they'd have these matches just to get you all hyped up with the stars. And then they'd have the interviews, but the guys wouldn't actually face off on television unless they got into a brawl or something. But the actual matches would happen at the live events, the live arenas. And that's when the live event era was big and they made all their money from. That's a different story, different day. I could go on and on. I get so wound up when I hear people say they don't know who guys are in different eras. That's why I brought that up. Go study your stuff, guys. If you're in the pro wrestling business today and you're in your 20s and you don't know that Ricky Steamboat existed, you don't know anything about Ric Flair, but what you saw in the last 5 years, you're an idiot, because he had one of the best careers ever. You got to give back. And if you don't know who Macho Man Randy Savage is, you don't know who Steamboat, you don't know who the greats of the 70s and 80s that wrestled, like Paul Jones, Ole Anderson, go check this out, because you're missing on great psychology you could add to your matches to make you a great performer. And one of the greatest tag teams of all time, nobody even brings up anymore. And he even actually works for SmackDown brand, is Michael Hayes's. He was with the Fabulous Freebirds. People don't know who these people are. It just burns my butt that you don't study everything before you, because I always did that. That's what brought me to the business in 93. I was 15 years old. I got broke into business, but I knew who all these guys were, not just by watching, but the ones I didn't know, I studied. So what I'm getting at here, a lot of these guys I'm going to name today, people may not know from the Omega. So let's bring up some names here, Mike. And we're going to bring up first the Hardy Boys. Everybody now knows who the Hardy Boys are, because their career expanded, right? From being hired in the WWE in late 98, actually getting their first deal as developmental, what they call developmental then. There wasn't really a developmental system yet. They would train up in Connecticut. But anyway, till, they made it, got their World Tag Team title run. The first one was in June of 1999 for the WWF. They won on Raw in North Carolina, actually. The Hardy Boys did. I was there live for that event. I told that story at a mega reunion. But anyway, so the Hardy Boys. So we look at a lot of things they did at the Omega. Like, for example, Matt Hardy's name on the group when I first started working there. I first met him was through Stallion, right? And then went to the group was called New Frontier Wrestling Alliance, NFWA. Matt Hardy was going by High Voltage. And I mean, Matt actually had a big H and a V on the back of his tights. He had High written down one leg, Voltage down the other, different colored tights. He had all kinds of tights. Here's the funny thing about that, right? Matt would get the material that these tights are made out of, that these guys wear, spandex and stuff. And Matt would make his own tights, his own gear. The only thing he didn't make was boots he bought. They actually bought real boots. These kids really wanted to be in this business, because they actually went out and bought them wrestling boots. They made their gear. It looked professional. They looked like the guys on TV. They really wanted to be in this business. But, Matt went by High Voltage to begin with when I first met him. And then, do you remember a tag team called High Voltage in WCW? Okay. Well, let me tell you the story behind that. Once WCW, I'll tell you how they got the name, and they gave it to these two guys. And they're both nice guys. I worked with them in WCW after I got there. They're nice guys. It ain't their fault. They were just given a gimmick, right? But Matt would they had this contest in '93. It was like a amateur challenge or something. And you sent in your promos about being a pro wrestler and all that. And he sent one in doing like his promo and I think a couple flips on a trampoline and stuff. Matt did, and he went by High Voltage. Well, WCW took that name, copyright, trademark, whatever you want to call it, gives it to these guys. So in 1996, Matt changes, or it was 95 or 96, right? Matt changes his name to Surge. Went from High Voltage to Surge. So kind of like the same area of life, right? Got a high voltage, it surges. Man, makes sense. But he changed his name to Surge because of that. And a lot of people don't know that. But, another thing people don't know about Matt is he thought about pro wrestling all the time. And he still does. I know he does. That's why he's still there. And he still knows how to because he came up through an era, the early 90s, that was still what we call the Carney era, right? And he broke in and got on shows with Stallion and George South, and people called him Carnies anyway, because all this stuff, So I think Matt turned that into being a good businessman and a Carney together, and here we are. He's still he's still being utilized. Very smart business guy, and he was very smart, and he ran the shows. A lot of times I see them, a lot of these talents, if they wasn't on their shows weekly, I'd be on other indie shows. I'd run into them, and sometimes I wouldn't see them until the next Omega show, depending on where my bookings took me on the indies and their bookings took them. Because after I left Stallion in I was a Stallion almost 2 years total when I broke in. So 1995, when I finally left Stallion for the first time, because I went back a couple times, I would work everywhere. I mean, I'd be down in Georgia, Tennessee, Carolinas, very seldom Virginia at that point. I did most of my gigs further south or west. So, but he'd call me on weeks that he needed to get his shows planned, and me and him would talk, and he would make sure I was booked for it. He'd actually tell me what was going on with the promotions at the time, what was going on, this and that. And if I had a show, because I'd run shows too. I actually bought my ring in 1997, around the same time Omega started. I had my own ring, and I would run my shows, and I'd use the Hardys and Helms and Jerry Matthews and Wachi, Scotty Dow, Caprice Coleman, Mike Howell, which is Mike Maverick. I'd use all of them on my shows anyway, just the same as I'd be on Omega. But yeah, I mean, we roamed around the Carolinas and Georgia, went down the Omega guys would also go down to Georgia and work for what everybody knows years later is NWA Wildside. It was actually NCW, which was National Championship Wrestling, ran by a guy named Rick Michaels and Chance. I can't think of his last name. Chance Williams, I think, was his gimmick name. But we saw each other all the time. I worked on their shows, and the Carolinas bled professional wrestling, But that was a big market and a big era, because Jim Crockett Promotions come out of there, and it was just something about that area. And I say it all the time. We talked about it earlier. It's in the water. The Carolina boys, phenomenal. Bam. And let me name the list. And then if you got anything you want to add to this, let me name the list of guys that worked for Omega Wrestling that actually got signed. Okay. Now listen to this list of guys. And I had to write some of them down because sometimes I don't remember right when I'm talking. But here's some names. If I missed a few, please tell me. So Shannon Moore was signed WCW. C.W. Anderson, the original ECW. Mike Howell, which is that's his real name, but his gimmick name is Mike Maverick. He's one of the Dubs with Champagne. They went into ECW. Him and Champagne were signed to ECW, the original. Let's see here. The Hardy Boys, everybody knows. WWF, WWE, TNA. They have a long history now, right? Shane Helms, whether you know him as Hurricane or Shane Helms, signed the WCW originally, WCW, WWE, so on. We got it, right? Now he's an agent. Steve Carino works down here at the Developmental Center, right? ECW original, ECW former world champion. Joey Matthews, part of M&M. Everybody remembers that tag team. Am I missing any names here? Christian York. I forgot that name's not on my list. Christian York was one of the Backstreet Boys. Not the Backstreet Boys. What did they call? I can't remember what they called their gimmick name, but he's with Helms and Moore and all of them out in Tennessee, right? So he got signed. So that's just listen to all the names I just mentioned. And I'm probably missing. Lodi of WCW fame went through there. And last but not least, their head senior official, they called me Mr. 2020, Jamie Scarlett. There, so bam. There you go. You got that full list there, man. You cannot beat that list of talent that I just named. And it was all a group of guys that was from the original Omega group. So there you go.
Yeah, good list of people right there. And I think you was looking for the Bad Street Boys.
That's it. Sorry. Yeah. I was trying to think of
it. Backstreet, Bad, same thing.
Back, bad. My back's bad. Yeah, it is now. But yeah, man, that list is just, and I ain't trying to use a word for AJ Styles right now, but that list is phenomenal. I mean, that's a big list of talent that, a lot of people may have not known that went through the Carolinas and Omega. And, when I first started working for them, it was New Frontier Wrestling. And they had a ring. Now, listen to this. The ring was made out of tubing. It was probably the size of a 16 by 16, maybe. I'm not even sure if it was 16 by 16. It might have been a little smaller, but it was no bigger. And they made the base out of a trampoline at first, but they took that out and made all this tube and pipe, right? But the ring bowed in the middle, and that's what I can remember about their first ring. But they would run these fair shows in Carthage at the Moore County Fair, and they do like Thursday, Friday, Saturday as the nights, and sometimes depending on if I was booked other places, because back then I would take bookings all week long, and God knows where I'd end up, but I would do all three fair nights if I didn't have anything else on the years they did it. It was like October of every year. And it was nice. You know how it is in the Carolinas, Virginia in the October. It's a nice, cool breeze in the evening. It ain't super cold yet. It feels good, and the wind's blowing, and just that fair atmosphere in the background, and the wrestling going on. And Ted Hobgood was the main guy. He was part of the Omega Union. A lot of people know about Ted Hobgood, but Ted Hobgood was like our voice, right? He was like RJR or our Tony Schiavone. You get it, right? Or Michael Cole now, as everybody sees him. But he was like our main guy, but he'd do the announcing and call the moves as the match goes on. So it was live for the crowd. They got it every time we did an Omega show. So that was something different. The only thing is really weird about when they do the announcing. One thing, I guess, we were all young kids, and I got psychology and I got protecting the business, but the only thing I guess we didn't think about is he's calling these moves, right? So if the referee takes a bump and somebody's interfering, he's talking to the crowd saying, "Oh no, there's blah blah with a chair," and the referee's knocked down, selling, trying to move a little bit. So it's kind of like you're hearing this, but you're not. I guess it's the thing where the referee doesn't see it, you can't call it though. So I guess it don't matter. But anyway, Ted had a wonderful, good voice for it. He had a good mind. He came up with the gimmicks for some of the guys. Honestly, he's the one that gave me the 2020 moniker. Got me the baseball cards and stuff. And I wish I get my hands on a bunch of them reproduced, because I would actually sell them. They're really cool, the Omega cards. But, it was just an era that if you could relive that 2-year span, right, from 1997 to 99 when they had their final Omega show in January of 99, where the Serial Thrillers, which was Mike Maverick and Shane Helms, beat them for the Omega Tag Team Championship at, I believe, the high school that Mike and I believe it was the high school that Mike and Shane went to. Beat the Hardys at it. I took a bump. They ran into me or something. I can't remember how it's gone. Anyway, I take a bump somehow. I end up on the floor. And then somehow the Serial Thrillers go over and I count the 3 count. But man, that 2 years was, it was bittersweet, and that's to say, a great company such as Omega goes out the end of January of 99. 99 was but then after that, my career personally was so good. It was my biggest year ever when it came to doing shows and matches and stuff, because I did roughly 250 shows that I have documented. That is shows that I refereed, not matches. So you can imagine how many matches I end up refereeing. 3 or 4 matches a night. Or some shows were all shows, could be 6 or 7. I did the whole show. Because not everybody, their brother, sister, their aunt, their uncle, their mother, and their brother and dad, back then, not everybody wanted to be a damn referee. Now, everybody's in the word work. You got young women wanting to be referees. You got guys wanting to be referees. You got meth heads wanting to be referees. You get what I'm saying, right? You got everybody under the damn sun wanting to be a referee in the last 10 to 15 years. It's crazy. But everybody's on the cool thing. When I broke in, and this is one thing I'm going to say, and this is not off Omega subject either, because Omega is still during the era of earning your keep. I broke in early 93. Well, late 93 is when I broke in. I was 15 years old. But to be welcomed into the wrestling business, Mike, it used to mean something. It used to mean you're welcome to this fraternity. Now, that's an honor. They bring you in. They're training me. They're giving me all these tools to use at a young age. And I'm not paying for any of this training. Stallion's just doing this, making me made me a referee. I had no prior experience, but I'm getting these learnings, these teachings. I learned how to bump later. I learned psychology. I learned all this stuff. And it was an honor back then to get into something like that. Now, there's so many, I'll call them roadside wrestling schools, that anybody can go out there, pay the tuition, get trained, and even in athletic states, the ones that actually take physicals, if you can pass the physical, you can get a wrestling or referee license or whatever, right? Or in the states of Virginia, let's stay at Virginia, you pay your money and anybody can buy a damn state license there because you don't do the physicals no more. So I technically could be an 80-year-old man. If I pay my fee to the state of Virginia, you're going to let me referee or wrestle. I mean, it's the truth, right? The athletic commissions used to mean something too. A lot of things don't mean nothing no more. But back in the day when all these guys were breaking in, and I was breaking in the some of them late 80s, the rest of us the early 90s, it was an honor. It was an honor to be trained. It was an honor to step in the ring. It was an honor to say you were in the pro wrestling business. That's changed. If there's one thing I could change about the pro wrestling landscape is the way guys break in our business. Not everybody should have a school. It should be accredited through something nowadays. Nowadays, you have to accredit everything because if you don't, anybody can learn and say they're a pro wrestler. And that's where we're at today with that. You know, back then it was nobody knew about wrestling schools. You just somehow met somebody. Like, I'll tell you how I got in. I met Chuck Coates is his name. God rest his soul. We talked about him. He passed away last August. I think it was August. Heart issues. only in his 50s. But Chuck, I'm going to tell you something about Chuck. He also helped me. That's how I met Stallion. I met George. I got to go to these independent shows, the PWF shows, right? I got to know them. And Stallion would talk to me because he knew I was a mark. I was a kid that loved pro wrestling. I met them when I was 13 years old. And by the time I was 15, I actually got in the business because I followed their shows around the Carolina area on the weekends. But, you know, if it wasn't for me meeting Chuck at Nikita's gym in Concord, North Carolina, and yes, I'm talking about Nikita Koloff, and I got to meet Nikita there, and Nikita talked to me, and you know, not many people know this, but at the age of 14, I was cleaning Nikita Koloff's gym in Concord, and of course, you can't work by legal laws in most states at 14, but I would actually get cash under the table, you know, free membership. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but I was a 14-year-old kid that had a free membership too. And I got to hang out at the gym, and a lot of the wrestlers that came through there, such as WCW, because Nikita actually worked for them during this time in 91, 92, would come through there, and you'd see them. And it would be so awesome just to meet them, you know. And but anyway, back then you had to meet somebody or know somebody to get into the business, to get trained, right? No more, you don't have to know anybody. You can look on the web, find your wrestling school, email them or call them, pay your tuition, and some of them will lie to you. They will lie to you. They will tell you that, hey, yeah, you're doing great. Put you out there in the indies. Once you're out there in the indies on your own, it's all you. You're either going to sink or swim. And without the right foundation, which there are some good schools, without the right foundation, though, you're not going to succeed. And I just think back in the olden days, I'll say it, the olden days, pro wrestling was, they monitored that. And only certain people were allowed in behind the curtain. You know, nowadays, oh yeah, bring your whole fucking family back here. Excuse my language. But you get what I'm saying, right? The landscape has changed. And if I could change one thing about that, and I can't, because I'm not the sole minority here that thinks this way, by no means. But it's sort of like, you know, so many things in our life we can't change. And that's one of them we can't change. We can't go back, close the curtain, and now say, well, this school is accredited through the state of Georgia. This example, right? And you got to do these drills like a test, right? To see if you're healthy enough to do this training. There's none of that out there. The schools that really care about our business watch for that, but there are a lot of guys that don't, is all I'm saying. So there's still a lot of good schools, but I guess my word to the wise today, to anybody who wants to be in the business nowadays, being the landscape has changed for you, is to go out there, study these schools, find out who went through these schools, find out if any of these guys actually have made any money from our business. And if they hadn't, I don't even know if I'd waste my time going, you know. I'm just saying. But, you know, with George South and Stallion coming through the Crockett era and George South going down to Central States, working for Bob Geigel in the late 80s and having a run down there with Rocky King as a tag team. And then you got Stallion started out in Georgia Championship Wrestling as Gary Cortinelli, which is not his real last name, by the way. That was just a gimmick name they gave him to be Italian. And later on, he took the moniker the Italian Stallion, and he had a good run. Stallion wasn't the main eventer by no means, but Stallion was he was a solid worker, really good worker, and he knew the business. So, and same thing with George, really great worker, knew the business, and I think that any of us guys that came through that era, or whatever you want to call it, of time, you couldn't ask for a better learning experience, man. I did so much with them. And, I sit back and I think sometimes, Mike, and I really do, I wish I could go back and redo my early years again. Not to change it all, but just to relive it, because they were some of the best times of my young life that I'll never get back, of course, but I did experience it. And when the memories flow, it's like, God, that was such a great time. I think back going to WWF TV for the first time, and even though Stallion took all them heavy booking fees we talked about before from the guys, and we made no money going, who else was going to take me there, right? I never would have got there. I was 16 years old, lying about my age, just like Jeff Hardy's story, being young. I went there to work. They didn't use me. I'm not a bumping machine like Jeff Hardy was. I don't think I'd have freaked out like Keith Davis on the move, but I would have been a little scared taking it at 16, But we all were kids. I think Jeff was more of a daredevil than most of us at that age, for sure. He's still a daredevil at his age. At our older age, I wouldn't do half the stuff. I wouldn't do none of the stuff he does, but all them crazy stuff. But you think about all that, man, all the opportunities we got, and it was wrong taking the money in one person's eyes, but in the other person's eyes, you can look at it as it was opportunity. It was growth for us. It would help most of us succeed later. So either way you look at it, it doesn't matter. But all I'm saying is the younger years during 1993 to 1999, before I got hired by WCW, were really the first 6 years of my career were really setting me up for the success that I got with the bigger promotions later, number one. But number two, it was some of the best years of my life. And sometimes I cherish them more than I do my WCW run. I do come into developmental for FCW, and I also cherish it more than my TNA run. And I'll tell you why, because it was more fun and more carefree. And you're learning. You're just constantly learning. And just great times, great years. I would not change any of them 6 years for nothing. WCW run was phenomenal. I wouldn't change that for nothing, except the company not going out of business, and I had a job for a few more years at least. But I can't change that. That's not my doings. That's corporate, and that's also out of everyone's hands. We all know that. A lot of things in our life are out of our hands, and we got to look for spiritual help or something like that to get through it, right? But, man, I could talk all day. I love my first few years in this business. It just meant so much to me. And I hope the kids today, if they're still young in their careers, I wish them well with their careers. But it's not for me to enjoy no more than the Indies every weekend, every week to every weekend. It's not for me to enjoy no more. My younger years are way behind me now. Unfortunately, I'm not an old man ready to die or anything by any means, but I know you got a joke for that, I'm sure. But like I'm saying, I'm 48, and if you look at a 28-year-old, they got a long time ahead of them. The 48-year-old guy in the professional wrestling business doesn't, is what I'm getting at. So,
hey, if Ric Flair and the Boogie Woogie Man can do it, you can do it.
Thank you, bud. Well, you know what's so funny though is I sit there and I know I can give a lot to this still, and the kids, some of these young guys will come up to me and ask me, hey, what do you think about doing it this way or doing it that way? And I'll be like, well, what if we do it this way? Just certain spots with them and stuff. And just like I refereed a girls match. Oh man, I wish I could remember their names. And I'm not doing it to be disrespectful. I just can't remember names right off the bat anymore, unless I've known you for years. And but these two young ladies, I worked their match up in Winter Haven back on. It's been a few weeks now. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks. About 3 weeks. I don't know, somewhere in there. And we were going over stuff, and we actually talked about it, right? And the guy that runs the show, I've known him for years, Paul. He come over and like, what do you think? And they actually let me put my input in. And a lot of that was done with my input of what we should do here and do this and that and there. And at the end of the match, after I threw out the match, I couldn't control the women, is the whole story of it, right? I turn around, they both clothesline me together. Crowd loves that. 2 women beating up the referee, right? And then they kick me. I roll the floor. And then my good buddy from WCW days, Billy Silverman, comes out and carries me out. My fellow referee. But, just stuff like that, man. I love when the newer kids, men and women both, will come up to you and want to talk about the match, not just, I think this is what's happening, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. I'll do what you want me to do. But, you know, you got all this insight and not more so even Billy Silverman being around, right? Billy was around from the Territory Savoldi days up in Maine and New Jersey and stuff, working for them from 1985 or something, man. Hell, you know, if these kids ain't asking stuff from me, they're not asking stuff from him, right? Because nobody cares. A lot of people think they know it all, but experience is where it's at. You know, I still, I'm not saying I don't learn something new from this business or anything else in life, because I do continuously. But, you know, when you got guys like me and Billy Silverman around, and guys like Paul that runs this promotion, Florida Pro Wrestling down here, you got us at your dispense. Or even Randy Eller, when he works the shows with us, he's another referee from WCW. You got all these, you know, seasoned minds that you should acknowledge and ask them questions, right? Because that's what I did, you know. When I got all my knowledge from Stallion South, but I also would go to Nelson Royal. If that name doesn't ring a bell, guys, go look that up. Nelson Royal. But Nelson Royal was an older wrestler. He wrestled for Stallion and George a few times in '94. I was about a year in the business, I believe. And so basically, he came into work, and I would pick his brain, because you'd be stupid not to pick an old timer's brain. And I did that every time I got a chance in my early years. And yeah, so that's my advice. If you work on shows, the people that's been in the big show and have not a lot of experience, been around many years. I've been around over 30 years, 32, 33, somewhere in there. Billy Silverman's been around 40 years at least. You know, Randy Eller, close to 40 at least, business-wise. And then you got Paul, which he wrestles as Cahagas. He's been around probably for 30-some years, at least 30 years. I mean, you got all this knowledge there of wealth. People, it's well-traveled. You should just take it. And that's not just us in our area. You should do that anywhere that you're working with old-timers. If you want to show with Ricky Morton somewhere, guys, he'll give you advice. If you want to show with C.W. Anderson, one of the best in the world, people don't know this. C.W. Anderson is one of the best at giving you psychology. He's one of the best to watch. He truly is an old school guy. You know, so if you're on these shows, I'm just saying, with any of these names I've mentioned or any other names that's been somewhere and knows how the dance works, take the knowledge in. I always did. That's some good advice today too, right? So you got anything to ask about Omega or add to about Omega today, or?
So, how did you actually start in Omega?
How did I start in Omega?
Yeah.
Okay, so how I started in Omega was, let's see, that was 1990. Well, we'll say Omega, but it was called New Frontier Wrestling Alliance. Okay, that's how I got started with the Hardys and all this, because I was talking to Matt after me and Stallion had a falling out the summer of '95. So I've almost been with Stallion 2 years. Stallion and me had a falling out because I was taking bookings outside of the PWF, trying to get my name out there a little more instead of just being so compact and regional with him, right? And then I also had a show booked to run. He found out about it. He didn't like that I was running one of the towns that he ran. And he gave me an ultimatum, and I basically just quit Stallion. So after that happened, that was like July, August, somewhere of '95, somewhere in there. I was working some shows, ran into Matt Hardy again on an indie show, and he had some shows coming up under the New Frontier banner at the Carthage fairgrounds. This was September, the month before the actual fair itself. And they put the ring up, that ring I was telling you about, the boat in the middle and made out of tubing. And, when you took a bump on it, it just thugged. Not a real hard bump. It just made a weird thugging noise when you bumped. But I went out there, worked for him in September of 95 for Matt. And then he's like, we got these fair shows coming up in October. He gave me the dates. I was free because I just had left Stallion. I was used to working for him every friggin' weekend, sometimes at least 2 days a weekend, if not 3 some weekends, right? Sometimes it's Thursday through Saturday. Most of the time it's Friday and Saturday. I didn't have anything yet. I was still trying to find outside bookings all the time. So I took these bookings from Matt, and I worked the fair shows and for New Frontier, which has later become Omega about a year and a half later. And that's how I got my initial start. But I met Matt and Jeff in 1993. No, hold on. I started in late 93. It was 1994. They'd come around a little bit and work the shows for Stallion. And George and them would teach them how to do a headlock and headlock takeovers correctly, different stuff. Actually train them a little bit. And then that's when Stallion started taking them to TV in 94. Then I got to go once. And I didn't go back anymore after that. But yeah, that's how I got my start, by meeting them originally in Stallions, but then reconnected after I left Stallion in 95 to go work indies. I reconnected with him with some indie show. I don't remember where it was now. And then he started booking me, and the rest is history. I worked quite a bit for New Frontier and Omega. Quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit, unless I was booked somewhere else. But 90% of the time, if they got me first, I would take it. Honestly, I would do that with anybody. Back then, if you called me first and I promised you, I would show up at your show. I was an honest guy because, on the indies, you don't have contracts and guarantees. You just got your word. Sort of like the territory days before they signed contracts, before they started that. So I'd give my word to whoever and I show up. But that's how I got back in. So.
Sounds good.
But, you can sit back and you think about some of the shows that they did. Another guy I did not mention went through there. I totally forgot. Was his real name is Mark. He wrestled at Sweet Dreams. He was the first Omega heavyweight champion. Matt met him through me because he came through Stallion's group as Sweet Brown Sugar. Kind of an old name from the 80s that Stallion rehashed, because the guy would come out, he'd dance, and then had a good look for the gimmick they're putting over. And me and him became good friends working at Stallions in 95, because it was early spring 95. He came through their training in Charlotte when Stallion had the training school down off Central Avenue in Charlotte. And by the way, Stallion would run Tuesdays and Thursdays every week out of there. He had 2 shows a week out of the training school, not at this point, 95, not counting the weekend shows. So he'd have 4 shows a week. So I actually, when Stallion got up to 4 shows a week, I actually quit and started doing indies. So if I wasn't catching bookings, Stallion be having shows, and I'd know about him, and I'd have a weekend off because I was trying to get out there again. But that's how Sweet Dreams was the first Omega champion. Is what he went by, because we changed his name. We were talking one day, and he's like, I want to change my name up. And I don't know who came up with it. It was me or him in a car ride, because Mark would go everywhere with me, all these indie bookings. And he's sitting in the passenger seat, I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and he just says, I don't know who said it, but one of us came up with Sweet Dreams off the song Sweet Dreams that was playing on the radio. And next thing you know, that's how he got his gimmick. And he went up to work for Matt. Matt loved him. I got him booked. I actually got him booked for Matt. Matt loved him. Next thing you know, Matt's he wins the first heavyweight title tournament, beating Matt in the final match as Surge. And that was, I tell you, Dreams would draw some heat with these crowds, right? Because Caprice Coleman, well, let's bring up that name real quick. Let's tell the Caprice Coleman story. And it is true. And Caprice brought this up. I'll tell the story with, I'll tell my story first, then I'll go into the story with how him and Sweet Dreams had a phenomenal feud before Dreams actually won the belt. But anyway, so he comes, I actually helped train Caprice as a referee. A lot of people don't know that. And yes, I'm talking about Caprice Coleman of Ring of Honor commentary, or if you remember him wrestling guys as NWA Wildside or whatever, right? I actually helped train him to be a referee. And there was little things that Caprice would do in the ring that traditional referees wouldn't do. You know, he would do a damn flip. He'd get the ropes and flip because he wanted to be a worker. So he'd flip in the ring, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that. You know, I was a traditionalist anyway, right? I'm a traditionalist when it comes to pro wrestling. When it comes to refereeing, I do not like. I'm not saying I don't do stupid stuff for TV when they pay me to do it, just goofy stuff. But I'm just saying at the heart of the core of me, I'm a traditionalist when it comes to being a referee. So he would do that, and he would do another thing. And I never really told him not to do the flip. I gave him pointers how to be a referee. I didn't say anything about the flip. I really didn't care for it, but I knew that was him. He wanted to be a worker, so I'm like, whatever. Now, the only thing, I was probably 17 years old at this time, right? 2 years in the business helping this guy out. And then I was 18, of course, soon after, but training him. But he would sit on the top turnbuckle, like relaxing, sit on the top turnbuckle, relaxing, waiting for the guys to come out. I didn't like that. So me being the referee that I was, I actually suggested not to do that. And he didn't say anything, get mad at me or anything. He just wanted to do what's right for business, I guess. And but no, I helped train Caprice to be a referee as he was trained to be a worker, because they used him as that to get ring awareness and to get more comfortable being inside the ropes, right? So, but yeah, Caprice, super great guy. He actually brought that story up of me training him and helping him out in his early career as a ref at the Omega reunion in 22. And I appreciate him acknowledging me, and he put me over like $1 million, and I couldn't ask for any more of a kinder words from anybody than Caprice gave me that day. So thank you, Caprice. If you do listen, if you don't listen, somebody tell him. Now, the Caprice Coleman story with Sweet Dreams. So they did this thing where they had a match one night, Caprice Coleman, when he started working, versus Sweet Dreams. Well, Caprice is this nice, mannered, come from a great Christian family, right? And then Sweet Dreams, Mark would play the role. And this is no joke. He played the role. He even said he was from the hood. So Sweet Dreams would come out acting like he's from the hood and bad. Caprice would be the high-flying, nice-looking kid, young, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm getting at. So they did this thing where when Caprice was getting his butt beat, like down, right? Dreams would beat him up, throw him to the floor, take him over to the railing in front of Caprice's, on the side where Caprice's mom and dad were. Now listen to this. He would talk junk to the family. Well, the mom, Caprice's mother, would get so hot the first night they did this that they literally had to hold her back from killing Dreams. She almost was on him like stink on poo, bro, and she was going to tear him up because he was beating up her son. And I think after that night, Caprice had to smarten her up. So going forward, mom wouldn't attack Dreams, because Dreams at the time, he was marrying this young lady, and he'd bring her out the ringside with her, right? And she would talk junk. Well, I think the mom actually got her hands on her that night. and it was a mess, bro. But it was good. It was good heat, and the crowd even bought into it more because they're like, "Oh crap, that's his mama. She's mad," and the crowd ate up, and it made it really more believable, honestly. And the crowd reaction. This was a Sanford, North Carolina Armory. The crowd reaction was just off the charts. And I think that's what made Dreams. I'm telling you right now, that's what made Dreams so over with Matt, because he knew Dreams could talk, he could get heat, and he did. And Mark was always good as a heel when he did that gimmick. He did it his face too in Towns, but when he did the heel Dreams, I always thought that was his best role in our business. And he was the first Omega heavyweight champion, and no one can take that away from him. And that was a big deal because we were the biggest independent growing group at that particular time. There's no one else bigger, especially in the Carolinas, Virginia, and so forth. So yeah, that was a really cool story, but they drew so much heat. And I actually was part of Dreams's one of his marriages. I know that sounds bad. One of his marriages, I was one of his groomsmen, and he was part of my wedding party on another one. So, well, mine, I only had one. I should rephrase that right. I only been married once. He was part of our party of my group. So, good dude. I don't talk to him as much as I should. I talked to him once a few years ago while living in Virginia, but never got up with him. I haven't seen Dreams since 2005 or 6. It's been a long time. It's been about 20 years. It's sad. Life takes us everywhere. Get a phone call, but that's about it, right? But I hope he's doing well still. I see him online sometimes, but we don't talk. I just see posts and stuff. But that's a good memory from Omega. Another one, and this was not from, I don't think it was from the same show, but Jeff Hardy would work as Will-O-the-Wisp, as well as it wasn't Jeff Hardy. He worked as Wolverine. That was his gimmick name. He put face paint on like Sting. He had the blonde hair, colorful tights. He'd wrestle as Wolverine. So the opening match, because he was doing Will-O-the-Wisp main event against Matt, I believe, that night, he wrestled as Wolverine. And he would, shoot, man, I wish I knew who he was working. I can't remember the particular, because I didn't get my results out. But he was working this kid, and the guy was on the floor, and he goes to do this springboard off the top rope to the floor. Both of Jeff's legs, this is the railing, both of his legs go bam, straight on, right? So Jeff's down. The crowd's like, oh. I see it looking out. Matt's standing there too. And I look at Matt, and I go, you want me to go check on him? Because I'm sitting there worried that he broke both his friggin' legs or something, right? Well, he's like, well, I don't know. He's like, and we didn't see Jeff get up. And next thing you know, he's like, yeah, go. Well, at the time I get there at ringside, Jeff's back up on his feet, walking it off, rolls back in the ring, finishes the match, comes back, works the main event. Didn't break his legs, thank God, but he bruised the living daylights out of his shins, bro. But that thing was just horrible because it was still barricade. We had actually real barricades. But when he flipped over, the guy to catch him, his legs hit him, bam. And I was like, oh, my God. I wasn't the official, but I was watching from the door. And then I ran out. By the time I got out there, he was up, finished it, and went back later, finished the main event. This is also the night Manny Fernandez shows up earlier that evening. Tells Matt that he's booked. Matt's like, you're not booked. I'm the promoter here. This is Omega. I didn't book you. He's like, no, I'm booked. Trying to strong arm Matt. And then, of course, Jason Arndt, which everybody knows him as Joey Abs of Mean Street Posse, was there, and Maverick and Helms, and they were all backing up Matt. And so Manny finally just said, well, can I set up a table to sell his gimmicks? And they let him set his table up. But I have nothing bad to say about Manny. And one time Manny wanted to whip my butt. And I thought he was there And if he was there, he'd come after me. But he was there just to try to make a buck, so he didn't bother me that night. Plus, if he would have, Matt and him would have had my back. I wasn't worried about it. But later on, speaking of Manny, I'm telling you, about Manny coming trying to strong arm him. Manny, I run into Manny years later. I want to say this is 98. Well, not years later. I guess it was 98. Working for Stallion again. It was in Mooresville, North Carolina at the Armory. And Manny comes up to me and goes, "You're Jamie Tucker?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I thought Manny's going to probably whip my tail right there in the dressing room. He goes, "So Willie Clay told me you were talking crap about me." And I'm like, I looked right at him. And so in 98, I was 19. I looked right at Manny and go, "Manny, I don't know you that well to talk about you. And I've never said anything about you at all." And once we talked, he said a couple more things. We basically just jotted up as Willie Clay at the time. And he's passed. I'm not gonna talk bad about him, other than this story, of course. If it's really not bad. I'm just telling a story that really happened. We just chalked it up as Willie trying to start trouble, because at one time I think me and Willie had some heat. So I guess he thought if he started the story on me, Manny would hate me. Manny would whatever. I don't know if he wanted Manny to whip my ass or what, but he didn't. And me and Manny were good from that day on, because after the close of WCW, Manny was booking for a guy named Chris Plano up in North Carolina. And Manny actually booked me for some shows. So me and Manny didn't have heat from that day forward. But I think if we wouldn't have talked it out and he'd have thought I really was saying stuff, that we'd had problems. But we talked it out and we were good from that day on in 98. But weird how stuff goes in this business.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So, you got anything else about Omega right now?
Well, I'm trying to think, man. Omega, it was like I was telling you, this few stories I told you. It was just a remarkable time with the talent. I'd hold it up. If you could get a hold of their product out there, which most people can't, I would hold it up to the standard of watching it, high flying wise, being as good or better than today's product, just because the mere fact, in my personal opinion, this is looking over Omega. My personal opinion, the greatest high flyer of all time is Beautiful Bobby Eaton of the Midnight Express. And he didn't do all these crazy flips, but he's the greatest high flyer of all time. Because of his time in 1980s, nobody did that crap, right? Nobody did what Bobby did, but Bobby did stuff that was in the realm that made sense. Now that people do flips off the balcony, and I'll be honest with you, it's got so old with that now, I don't even hear them pop on TV no more for that. I mean, sometimes it seems like it's dead silence for these moves, because I think they gave them too much. And, pro wrestling is it's a simple formula if you know how the formula works. Now, for the actual fan out there that don't know the inside of the business that much, the formula may not be as simple for you, but if you're in the business and you know the psychology, you know how the professional wrestling business works, it's a simple formula that you can use. And no one gets hurt. And you're not doing those weird or stupid, crazy stunts to get over. And you get over. You're a pro wrestler, you get over, blah, blah, blah. But the greatest high flyer of all time is Bobby Eaton. I'm just leave it at that. But if you look back at the late 90s, if you change them by eras, the greatest high flyers were in Omega wrestling. Hands down. Cannot beat it. Cannot say no different. Don't want to hear it. Sorry. It's not, and it's because these were all North Carolina guys, all born in North Carolina and raised, that wanted to be professional wrestlers and wanted to make it. So, to me, that right there would make that product way better than the product that even the WCW or the WWF or ECW or whoever were bringing in the luchadors. It makes the American product better for the mere fact that these were all homegrown men born in the great old USA and the state of North Carolina. And they were some of the greatest athletes. And then two of them are still proving that they're still some of the greatest aerial wrestlers ever. And that's the Hardy Boys. They're still going at it. So you cannot convince me any other way around it. It's just the way it is. And, you know, it may be subject to a different opinion. If we go for the greatest high flyer of all time, I'll say it again, Bobby Eaton. If we go by eras, hell, the Hardy Boys must have owned the last 30 years. I mean, they're still going. And Jeff still does some outlandish stuff, you know, and Jeff and me are the same age. I know how old he is. So you can't take it away from him, you know. But all you younger guys out there, all you young cats, you can thank not only the Hardy Boys, but everybody who's in Omega for where you are today. Sorry, I'll always continue to say that. I said that the Omega reunion back in 2022 in Winston-Salem, and I'll say it to everyone listening to this. You cannot discredit anyone that came through Omega. I mean, look at C.W. Anderson, team with Brock Anderson now, right? Major League Wrestling, they're going around working their tag team angle there. They've been in TNA recently. And, you know, CW is still going. He looks great. Hell, he might, and I'm not knocking him, but he knows that when I say this, he might be in the greatest shape of his life right now. He looks great. He's doing great, you know. So, I don't know, dude. Just, I guess to leave Omega on a high note, all I'm going to say is to not have been able to see it. A lot of you have not seen their stuff. Not to be able to see them shows and not to be able to live in that era, especially, you just can't appreciate it the same, you know, especially living in the moment. Even if you were a fan living in that moment, you can appreciate it a lot more than somebody watching it now. You go back and go, man, they were the days. And we say that on a lot of things in life. We may listen to an old song and go, man, that song brings back memories. That was the days. And it's just the way it is with everything. You know, we all have our things that make us look back and go, man, them were the good old days. And I think that about Omega. I think that about all my early years in this business, when I broke in, was learning the business, learning my trade. I think back and go, they were the best years of my life. I also look back at WCW, my WCW run, and I look back at WCW in the early days and go, man, if only we could have a WCW today, right? But to me, all that is great and great memories. And I just wish I could relive a lot of the memories again, but you can't. You can't go back and relive anything, good or bad. And you shouldn't want to relive the bad, but the good, you can't go back and relive either. And that's where we're at. And anything I talk about in this podcast, when we talk about pro wrestling, that's not new. All of it is just a cherished era for me. You know, I don't know. I wish we had a promotion today that was all the young kids would go to and live their dreams and passions and be like the family that Omega was. But, you know, and the family I had at Stallions PWF, I don't have that now when I go to indie shows, bro. I go do my work. Some of these kids are real nice, but, you know, different era, different mindset on how a lot of the stuff in the business should go. And it's just the way it is. I mean, I understand how the business has changed. That's why I still stay in it. That's why I still do shows, and a lot of things are different. But you got to think about guys like Cornette that will never step foot at any of these indie shows. And he's not stuck in his ways. I hate when people say Cornette's stuck. I don't know if he's stuck so much as he's actually telling everybody what they don't want to hear, you know, how bad a lot of stuff has gotten. And that's just the truth of reality. People don't like reality in the face. None of us do. No, at times, man, nobody wants to hear the truth. But when you hear the truth, some got to take the truth. And that's why you have so many people on social media, when it comes to pro wrestling, especially, all these fans arguing over every single topic there is, whether it's old wrestling, new wrestling, current, whatever. They're all just pissing in the wind with their opinions because none of them matter. And half of them don't even buy tickets to the events anymore. They just go online and talk bad about it. You don't even watch the premium live events. Half of you just want to talk crap about what happened on television. I mean, I'm right.
I mean, you're right. But can you afford to go to these shows, though?
Well, I'll just put it to you this way. I'm not a fan enough of the newer product, even if tickets were super affordable, to go to it. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's not like when I was growing up in the 80s, my first show, and it's really weird, Mike. I sent you earlier, it was yesterday or earlier today, about AEW come back to Roanoke at the Berglund Center on July 11th, right? July 11th, 2026, right? Guess where I was at July 11th, 1986? The same building for Jim Crockett Promotions, okay? Watching the Midnight Express, watching guys like Cornette, watching Ronnie Garvin, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Oldie Anderson, Magnum TA, Nikita Koloff, Ric Flair, and Ricky Morton in a steel cage main event. I watched the Stallion that night. I didn't know years later I'd be getting broken in the business and trained by him, but I was watching Stallion that night. He was on the undercard. Don Kernodle, you name it. They were all on this Great American Bash Tour show in Roanoke, Virginia. So 40 years exactly later, on a Saturday night, to be of all nights. I think it was on a Saturday night too. I can't remember. It might have been a Friday, but it was on the same date nonetheless, right? And it's a different era, a different type of wrestling. I was a kid then, right? But I'll fast forward for you a little more and explain this a little better. So let's say, well, you're a kid then. So let's fast forward to wrestling when you're a little older, right? Okay, let's do that. Even before I broke into business, 92, I was a big WCW fan. I watched it all, but WCW is always the South, always in my heart. Always when I finally got into business, that was my first place I wanted to go, and I've always told people that. Hell, I even wear WCW merch all the time still. I'm still a WCW mark to this day, even though I work for them. Now, fast forward, teenage years. Still better. I would pay for that type of wrestling, like the 1992 Bill Watts WCW. Let's hook them up type attitude when it was old school type. Still, to me, I would buy a ticket to, right? Fast forward, late 90s, WCW, WWF, Attitude Era. If I was still a fan, not made it yet, I'd buy a ticket to that. Not today. It's just, we're different, man. It's just different, right? I mean, I know, what year were you born, Mike? Early 90s, right?
Yeah, 91.
Okay. So think about this, Mike. You've watched old wrestling, since we talk about it a lot anyway. You watched a lot of the 80s stuff. You watched a lot of the early 90s. You watched the era that you grew up in, right? Now, answer me this. Riddle me this. Would you, compared to everything from 20 years worth of wrestling prior, would you even consider, if you had to compare it, would you rather buy a ticket to that or what we have today?
What we have today.
I know you're messing with me now.
No, I was. If I really had to go back, I'd say me personally, just watching as much as I had, I would say like the mid '90s for WCW, like right before like the Nitro, and like where it was like still like the old Crockett and stuff. Like I'll probably pick that. That's really good wrestling. And then second will probably be back in the '80s and stuff like that's. But
So early Turner.
like, yeah. So if it's anything like newer, I I'll probably say like 2002, 2003. That's kind of like right after WCW,
Yep.
and where it seemed like WWE kind of gave up on, but we don't have no competition, so they
Mm-hmm.
kind of slacked off on like the storylines and stuff, and it just wasn't as good there for like the longest time. But I'll probably pick like mid '90s first,
Yep.
then probably back to the '80s.
Right.
I mean, even if you like big, powerful like moves, like no high flying, no nothing. I mean, you got the '70s, like that was really good stuff too.
Yeah.
So, like if you like traditional wrestling, so and
Yeah.
then like I've heard people talk about it. Like you can see, yes, people love wrestling now. They love the product on TV and stuff. And I could say, hey, I love this, I love that. Like I love a lot of stuff that they just did for AEW pay per view.
Mm-hmm.
They put more, in my opinion, they put more into the pay per view, way more than they do for the product on TV, and
Yeah.
it shows. Um, but you can just see, go back to the '70s and '80s and '90s and stuff. Even like the Monday Night Wars with WWE and WCW, just a passion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really see the passion that much on TV, like through the TV, like you used to.
Yep. I mean,
So
there's not many. You know, I've seen some crazy spots on AEW's broadcast, and the crowd don't even react.
yeah,
It's like these guys are out here killing each other, and if you don't react, I just got one question: why are you killing each other? You know
yeah,
it's a predetermined. Okay, I hate to say it because I love professional wrestling, and we should never came to this point where we even got to say this because I broke into kayfabe era, and I wish we still had it. But we're in a predetermined sport. Your goal is not to go out there and murder each other. I don't care how much money you're making. You don't go out there and murder each other. I mean, you're supposed to protect each other. And some of these dumb spots is either going to kill you or your opponent one day. And that's the God's honest truth. But the funny thing is, Mike, I don't know. They can't go much crazier because if they go much crazier, somebody is going to die.
yeah,
You know, because we saw crazy back in the Attitude Era with Foley coming off cages, and we thought that was big, right?
yeah,
And then ECW's burning tables and throwing them off balconies. That was big. But some of the stuff they're doing now, and and it's hard to believe that Foley is even walking. I think if he wouldn't have retired when he did, he probably wouldn't even be walking.
yeah.
And then this kid Darby Allin, and I know you're not a big fan of him anyway, but we'll go set that aside on our opinions on him, but just the stuff he does, I'm gonna say, does he want to die? I mean, you're a thrill seeker, kid. I get it, but do you not care about you or your even you or your well being?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The business is spanned so far out from the roots of where it was supposed to be. Where a beatdown of Dusty Rhodes would have drew heat by the Horsemen, right? Or Paul Jones in the studio in the Mid Atlantic, the studio in Raleigh back in the late '70s, talking about being the Mid Atlantic champion, hyping you up to come see him defend it or see him go after the title. I mean, them days are long gone. The days of them standing behind a cage to build up the house shows are well gone, right? It's a different business model, and I've got that for a long time. I mean, I'm not naive to it. I get it. I even try to progress with it, understand everything this business has done. I even tried to stay in the big time with it as the years went by. But, you know, at this point, I probably wouldn't turn down a job. I mean, I'm not stupid, you know, but I don't know. We go all day about how it's changed, how different it is, and how much we don't like something that's currently happened. And a lot of the product today, I do like to watch some of it. I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying the landscape of the business, the way they done it, the way they're doing it. And they give them a handful of house shows for the summer. Let's just give them. This needs to bring this up. WWE brings out a handful of house shows for like June through August or something, but it's only a handful. It's like 12 or 13, right? Maybe even not that. Maybe 10. Are you really doing house shows? I mean, I remember back in the day, the Attitude Era, right? WCW and WWE was on the road like 200 some years a year. And back in the Crockett days, Flair would say he wrestled over 300 days a year. I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, it's still a light schedule for the money they're making. The money these guys are not all of them, but money a lot of these guys and girls are making nowadays are it's crazy for the schedule they have to do. And I'm not mad at them for taking the money. Hell, I'd do it. I'm just saying the landscape of that's even changed. So, yeah.
I definitely agree with you. So,
do you have anything else for Omega? I don't think I can think of any more stories at the moment. I'm trying to, like I was, a lot of times, I'll be honest, even at the reunion, we were trying to tell stories, but at the end of the day, you'll leave there and you're thinking, that day, you left there and you thought of stuff after you left. Like, damn, I wish I shared that. Yeah. It just happens that way. But there was a lot of the stuff we talked about was some key stories of that. And, we've talked about the WWF trips with the Omega guys and the Hardys and how the payoffs went, Stallion taking booking fees and all that. We talked about that. I brought up Stallion quite a bit over the last few months. What we really haven't touched base on is, me and you and I haven't. I may have in the early days of the podcast. Maybe a little more Wild Side era, or maybe even the mid-90s when I worked for all the other people, not just Omega, but a New Frontier through 95 through 99, but maybe like all the other independent groups. There was a lot, Great American Wrestling Federation out of Asheville, worked for two different SCW groups. One was Southern Carolina Wrestling. The other one was Southern Championship Wrestling out of Greer and Greenville, South Carolina. Because when I first met these two guys, Jim Lewis and Cowboy, his name was Paul. Can't think of his last name. He really looked like a cowboy. I'm talking about old school cowboy. He had that big long mustache down to here and big old beard and had a cowboy. But anyway, him and Jim Lewis would run Southern Championship Wrestling. They had a falling out. Cowboy started running Southern Carolina Wrestling. So I'd work for both of them during the week, weekend shows, whenever they had. Great American Wrestling Federation out of Asheville, worked for them in Western North Carolina. NCW, Western North Carolina and Georgia, both. They'd run both. I did a lot. We have a lot of gray area that we have not touched on this podcast to bring up memories. But yeah. Also, I just want to remind people, I will be venturing out next week on Regalwood podcast for my good buddy Ricky Regal out of South Carolina. I worked for him on a lot of these shows with Cowboy and Jim Lewis, and that's how I met him. He was a tag team with Mickey Free, and their name, if I could only remember, I can't remember their tag team name, but really good guys. He once told somebody that he believed that my refereeing was so good. I had the sixth sense of being in the ring, really good at my game, and that was a compliment, of course. But I'm going on there next week. Just want to give everybody a heads up. We will have our podcast next week too. We're not leaving you high and dry. But he hit me up the other day, and I haven't done another podcast since 2014. That wasn't my own. So I thought I'd jump on this one, give Ricky a little support in his game over there, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. Tune in. I'll put the link on our podcast page next week as well. That's on next Friday, the 5th. Yep, it's the 5th of June. We'll try to get ours in, guys, next week, somewhere in the vicinity of Wednesday, maybe Wednesday again. Well, will we do that again? Maybe Wednesday or Friday ourselves. Maybe do our Fridays too. I'll just have an all-day thing. But
who knows? We don't know when we're actually going to do it. It's going to be. We don't really know till the day of, pretty much.
Sometimes that is true.
Yeah. So.
The way things have been, but we'll be back, and we'll bring up some stories and stuff. Let us know what you want to listen to as well, guys, because sometimes that helps us out to know what you guys are interested in listening to. But Omega, if other stuff comes up, I'll definitely bring it up the next broadcast that we put out. But it was truly a great time of history, and a great time in professional wrestling nonetheless. And two of them, like I said, are still, what is it, 30 years later or more since Omega has been dead. Oh, no, it's been 27, 28 years since Omega has been dead, but they're still going strong. So, did you have anything you want to leave them with this week, Mike?
Yes. So go to CowboyRevolution.com. Use the promo code JamieT123 for 15% off. But more importantly, go to our website email. Send us a comment or questions, or put the email up there.
Oh yeah.
Hey, he's a little slow at this.
All right,
there we go. And you said something. You can use that email to request autographs from you, right?
Yep.
So
there you go.
It might look something like this.
That's the TNA.
Or one like this.
Yep.
Or go really old school and have a red rug on top of his head. Look at all that red. Look how much time has changed. Hair, now no hair. And it did fall out naturally. But real quick, I know we got to get off soon, but we haven't been on since it happened. But like Ted Turner, WCW passed away. What, a couple weeks now?
Yeah. Yep.
So prayers to that family. A former guest GM, celebrity, and former 24/7 champion, Kyle Busch, passed away a couple of days ago. So the wrestling community is losing people. But is there a quick story about you and Ted Turner?
Me and Ted Turner?
Yeah. Hey, I don't care what it is. I mean, I kind of threw you on the spot because I did not know I was going to ask that question. But I know you got to have some kind of story.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I really don't have any interaction. I never met Ted Turner.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, hold on. But I will say this about him. During a time of pro wrestling when, the Crockett's were in the era of selling it in the late 80s, thank God that Ted Turner had the love for this business that he did
Yeah.
to keep it on TBS, keep it in the studio until they moved it early 89 to the center stage. But that old studio taping was always what I grew up on Saturday nights at 6:05. And Ted loved his wrestling. He had Georgia Championship Wrestling on there all the way up to Crockett took it over, and he loved wrestling. And I got to work for, at one time, it was the largest wrestling company in the world. It outdid the WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it. Did WWE finally surpass? Yes. You can say they won a war, but was there really a war? I just think that corporate took over what Turner had, and we can go in that another day because we've talked about it before, and that's why we have no WCW and all that. But thank you, Ted, for keeping WCW alive as long as you could. As a pioneer, he started that station. The old story goes he came to Charlotte, North Carolina to start the TBS studios there. And I heard that I used to get my hair cut when I was a teenager at a barbershop off of Eastway Drive in Charlotte. And I go in this barbershop, and the old men were talking one day that ran this place. And they're talking about Ted Turner. And I was like, I'm going to listen to this because I knew he was owned WCW. And they were like, you remember when he came to Charlotte and he asked everybody here to give him $1 so he could start this big TV station and all this. And everybody thought he was, I guess everybody's like, no, and thought he was crazy. Well, goes down to Atlanta, opens Superstation TBS, Channel 17 out of Atlanta, has wrestling on it. His flagship show was professional wrestling. It was his highest rating show, and Ted knew that. And just a big wrestling fan. So thank you for keeping WCW alive and buying the NWA. Well, you really didn't buy the NWA. The NWA was owned differently, and the name changed to WCW later. Not just the TV show, but they actually changed their name to World Championship Wrestling. We all know that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ted. But while we're talking about the NWA real quick, and I had forgot about this story till I saw it in the messenger you sent me about the NWA. William Patrick Corrigan sent out an NWA. What would you call that? A memo, I guess. About how they wanted to sincerely apologize for the insensitive comments made by Odison on social media. These statements do not reflect the values, views, or beliefs of the NWA organization. We do not condone hateful or offensive remarks of any kind and remain committed to fostering a respectful and inclusive environment for everyone in our community. NWA President and CEO William Patrick Corrigan signs off on that. Now, let me ask you this, Mike. What did Odison do?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
So I just think this is going to be the opening topic of our next podcast. Do a little research because I have no idea. I just have to see it.
Now, I've seen something. Somebody made a comment on this thread, right? Now, somebody said it was a homophobic video. Do you know anything to that? Somebody said he said something about his opponents being gay cowboys. Did you? I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know. I'm looking. I don't really see nothing yet.
I'm sure he's had the post removed on his page, though.
Probably, but somebody probably screenshot it out there somewhere.
So here's my personal opinion. Even if he did say them comments or something worse, okay? I'll leave this on a high note for this week. This is kind of like if you watched Jerry Springer's show back in the 90s, everybody, he would get his final thought, right? Well, my final thought is if Odison said something to the effect of his opponents, I'm not even sure who he was talking about because I don't know the whole story. But if he said something to the effect they were gay cowboys, I'll just put it to you this way. I'm assuming this guy was trying to draw some cheap heat of some kind. I'm pretty sure Odison did not want to offend anybody in any community out there. So, with that being said, are we really that soft of society nowadays, everyone, that we have to sit here and find a problem and bitch and moan and cry and whine to the effect of, oh, you hurt this person or that person's feelings? So, my suggestion is, if you're a grown man and you took this the wrong way, grow a pair. My suggestion to you is, if you're a female and you got upset over this comment, hell, the way some of you act, grow a pair as well. Here's my whole thing, though. It's in a business that is supposed to draw people to get mad at you. And what he said in the context should not have hurt anyone's feelings, because, like I said, it's probably just cheap heat. And for Billy Corgan to have to go apologize to the public, it's a sad day, not only in the world of wrestling, but the sad day in the United States of America. That's my final thought.
I don't know exactly what it is, a little bit that I did see. Like I said, we'll talk about it next episode. Sure.
Absolutely.
But
we gotta
apparently
stop doing this.
But apparently his tag team partner is openly gay. So I don't know how, like, if they kind of like broke up, like the tag team, and he was just trying to draw heat or what.
Yeah.
But so we'll just have to dive into it.
See, that's what makes no sense. I'm sure he's friends with his tag partner. He's got no real heat with him. He's trying to draw heat in the wrestling business, people. People need to just calm down. That's what's wrong with everything. People wants to go online and act like they're doing something for the community and making the community better. And in all reality, you're making things worse for all of us.
Yeah.
Keep your mouth shut. I can be online all day too, Mike. Am I right? You know, I get mad and I have my own opinions, but I don't go spread them. So everybody just needs to calm down. You know, live a little.
All right, let's get off the gay comment and let's end it on a high note, okay? So
back up here.
bring it back up.
That's right.
We can't have another episode that we edit stuff out. But no, it was Tony Schiavone was talking about Ted Turner and the store and everything.
Right.
And it popped back into my head for what you was kind of saying up in it.
Yeah.
And Tony was working up in like the headquarters or whatever for TBS and TNT and all that stuff. And he's up in like bathroom or something, and Ted Turner walks in and everything, and when they got done and everything, he goes, I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm Tony. I used to work for WCW and stuff. Ted Turner looks at him and goes, if I still had to stay and everything, the wrestling will still be on the TVs and stuff. So it wasn't him. It was definitely the stupid corporate people.
Yep.
So, but like you said, thank you, Ted, for what you did. And with him passing, who knows? He could go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to see him on TV, but maybe they will put him in the Hall of Fame and stuff.
That would be so cool if we could see Ted Turner go into the Hall of Fame. That would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
But I think it'd be. I want to be something stupid like the Celebrity Wing or Legacy or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think he really just needs to go in there into the regular Hall of Fame and stuff. He deserves it. Just like Chris Benoit, Vince Russo, David Arquette, Vince McMahon, and Mr. 2020.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for bringing my name up. It means a lot.
Yeah, you was in some great company on that one.
Yeah. I was. I would be honored to go in the same time with the Turner and all them names. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So guys, we do appreciate you each and every week. I want to say that, and let your friends, family, and people you don't know about this podcast. Get them interested, get them to listen or watch. We're on all streaming platforms that are known to mankind, at least most of them. We are on YouTube if you want to watch us. You can also listen to us on the listening version on YouTube if you still want to use YouTube for that. But you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and Pandora even. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week again and bringing this podcast back. So, Mike, other than that, I just want to tell them again about the Cowboy Revolution and saving that 15% off at the checkout. You just use the code Jamie123. And the website's on this. Yep. Listen, so the website was on the screen. Let's put it back in.
Oh.
There we go. The website is cowboyrevolution.com. If you do not see it on the screens because you're listening to us, it's cowboyrevolution.com. Use the code JamieT123 at checkout for that 15% savings. Go use some stuff for the summer, guys. Get you a nice thin T-shirt to wear until you get to the beach, or maybe a hat. Send your questions, comments, and concerns. And if you would like to get an autographed photo of Mr. 2020, soon to be merch from the Golden One as well, at WrestleRef123@gmail.com. So look forward to that. We will have more merch coming in the future. We're working on that right now. We're talking about maybe some mugs, T-shirts, stickers, whatever. But we will have the information for you, and we will get a link for you as well in the near future. So, Mike, anything else to leave these wonderful, wonderful people with today?
Follow our Facebook and Instagram.
That's right. Bang, bang. That's for Mick Foley being an AEW now. So
no, it's because I was drinking a Bang energy drink.
Oh, okay. Bang, bang.
Well, I don't care about
Mick
Mick Foley.
Baby. That's when he was his greatest.
No.
I'm telling you, his
Undertaker should have thrown him off the cage without the table there.
No.
So,
listen,
he should have kept playing over the
Cactus Shack with Sting, bro. Okay. Anyway, that was the good days. Well, until next time, everyone. Adios.
Bye, everybody.